Pesticides. Threats plants have to face. Many factors can damage plant growth, development, and health. Adverse weather conditions, diseases, pests, wrong farm practices, soil deficiency of nutrients, weeds. Adverse climatic conditions, excess or deficiency of water, the presence of poisonous substances in air, and improper cultivation practices damage and weaken crop plants and make them more susceptible to diseases. Weeds. Weeds are unwanted plants that grow not intentionally, are extremely resistant, and even pernicious. By competing for water, light, space, and soil nutrients, weeds cause a reduction of plant growth and thus of crop yields. Competitive plants, therefore, represent an economic damage for farmers. Moreover, they grow very fast, are resistant to diseases, adapt rapidly to adverse conditions, and can damage crops indirectly as well, because they can host plant pathogens and make farm practices difficult. On the other side, weeds may be useful as they can control soil erosion, reduce water runoff, and restore grass in areas of low rainfall, thus avoiding a process of desertification. Approximately 8,000 species of plants are nowadays considered weeds. However, the main threat to plants and crops is posed by pests and diseases. Diseases are challenging situations given by organisms, that is, by pathogens. They represent a major problem to farmers. They are difficult to handle, first of all, because pathogens are hard to identify, as they are very small and constantly change and mutate. Pests. Pests are vertebrate animals, for example, birds, rodents, little mammals. Invertebrate animals, such as insects, mites, or snails. Worms. Microorganisms and pathogens, fungi, bacteria, and viruses. And unwanted plants, that is, weeds. In order to face and solve the problems related to weeds, pests, and diseases, farmers have to use pesticides. So, what are pesticides? A pesticide, or better, an agropharmaceutical product, is any substance or a mixture of substances used by farmers to prevent, destroy, repel, or mitigate pests. The term pesticide also refers to herbicides, fungicides, and various other substances such as regulators, defoliant, desiccant, or agents used for preventing the premature fruit drop. Pesticides can be applied to crops not only before the harvesting, but also after harvest to protect crops from deterioration during storage and transport. Pesticides can be chemical compounds or biological pesticides. Chemical compounds. When synthetic chemical compounds were discovered after the Second World War, it seemed like a dream to farmers that many pests and diseases and weeds, for which no remedies had been available before, could be easily controlled. And the yields increased significantly. To fight pests and diseases, farmers began to apply chemicals without being aware of the disruptive effects on the environment and on human health. What are the pros and cons of chemical compounds? Pros. As a matter of fact, there are several advantages in using pesticides. The first advantage is represented by the economical aspect and related to cost. There is a variety of high-quality products at reasonable prices. Another pro is their flexibility. A single pesticide can be effective for almost all pest problems. Moreover, pesticides represent a crucial economic advantage in modern industrial agriculture because large areas can be treated quickly and efficiently. Among the pros in the use of pesticides, prevention is not of secondary importance. They are used to stop the spread of pests during the transport in imports and exports. What are the contraries in the use of chemical compounds? The use of chemicals causes different problems to fauna, environment, and human health. Fauna. Animals which interact with pesticides can be poisoned by chemical application. Wildlife and fish are the most affected. Chemical compounds destroy predators along with the pests themselves and disrupt the ecosystem, as they are lethal for other useful organisms, especially in the soil. Environment. Pesticides can affect surrounding areas and damage non-target crops, livestock, and waterways. Water contamination is a crucial problem since chemical compounds reach rivers, lakes, seas, and even oceans, as well as water tables. In addition, the process of manufacturing chemical compounds pollutes the environment through continuous emissions of various harmful substances from factories. Finally, persistent overuse of the same pesticide can create resistance in the target pest. Undesirable side effects include the worsening of already known diseases or even the emergence of new ones. Human health. chemicals go out of the farm gate too, causing unacceptable risks for human health, since their residues can accumulate in food. Poisoning by chemicals can affect operators and workers on the farm. They may suffer from troubles related to acute toxicity, allergies, irritation, dermatitis, sickness, and respiratory problems. Chronic toxicity is even worse, as it cannot be detected at once and may continue for years. Some chemicals have been linked to DNA mutations, cancer, leukemia, and birth defects. Biological pesticides. As opposed to chemical pesticides, biological pesticides, or simply biopesticides, are pesticides derived from natural organisms such as animals, plants, and bacteria. Biological control is a technique that exploits the antagonistic relationships between living organisms to contain the populations of harmful ones. Pest control mainly concerns insects and mites, harmful consumers of plants, which are incredibly adaptable and able to live even in the most difficult environments and conditions. In the reduction of pest population by natural enemies, all insect species can be suppressed by naturally occurring organisms and environmental factors, with no human input. This is frequently referred to as natural control of pests. When the biological control of pests also involves an active human role, it is defined as Integrated Pest Management, IPM. That is, the use of biological control when possible, chemical control when necessary. Natural enemies of insect pests, also known as biological control agents, include predators, parasitodes, pathogens, fungi, bacteria, and viruses. Here is an example. NPV, nuclear polyhedrosis virus, is a pathogen agent for the only effective control of bollworm of cotton. The virus enters the body of the pest, which dies within 2 to 5 days by drooping down its head. Biological control of weeds includes insects and pathogens. Biological weed management means using living organisms to help manage weeds. This involves releasing a specific biological control agent, typically an insect, nematode, fungi, or bacteria, to a weed-infested area and allowing the agent to attack the weeds. Biological control agents of plant diseases are most often referred to as antagonists. Fungal diseases account for approximately 10% yield losses annually in corn and soybean. Biopesticides can be classified in microbial pesticides and plant pesticides. Microbial pesticides consist of microorganisms, for example, a bacterium, a fungus, virus, or protozoan, which are able to control many different kinds of pests. The most widely used microbial pesticide is Bacillus thuringiensis, or Bt. This bacterium, which lives in the soil, produces a different mix of proteins that are toxic to some insects when eaten, but not to others, and kills one or more related species of insect larvae. Tomato hornworm is a common garden pest which is susceptible to Bt. Plant pesticides. Plant pesticides are pesticidal substances that plants produce from genetic material that has been added to the plant. These plant pesticides do not exist in nature, but are produced artificially in laboratories through genetic modification, so they are GMOs, and are therefore the result of a human activity in integrated pest management strategies. As an example, genetic engineers can take from the Bacillus thuringiensis the gene which is responsible for the production of toxic proteins and introduce it into the plant's genetic material, so that it is the plant itself which produces the toxic substances to destroy the pest. Biopesticides. Advantages, disadvantages. The advantages in the use of biological pesticides are: they are easy to produce, low cost, low labor required, they are potentially permanent, that is, they are not seasonal and do not require reapplication in each growing season. They are not harmful to non-target pests. They can be used on pests that have become resistant to pesticides. No toxicity, no residues in food. They don't damage the environment, soil and water. The pest is unable to develop a resistance, so they don't intensify or create new pests. What are the disadvantages in the use of biological pesticides? Biopesticides are not always applicable. This pest strategy is generally a slow process, especially in the initial phases. Research costs are high and sometimes may produce no results. The use of biopesticides requires expert supervision. And finally, control agents and antagonists may become pests themselves.